Hey, what's up guys? JB here. We're back again today with more coverage of the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children collaboration with War of the Visions. And we'll be looking at Tifa today, coming in with some absolutely fantastic artwork as always. Now this of course is the free unit from this collaboration. I'm sure most of you probably have already gone in there and grabbed her already from the free 10-time summon. But when you think back on past events, there have been a number of these free units that Gumi has handed out to us. You can think of a number of good ones even, like Bartz, Edward Elric, Renoa, Titus, and even the original Final Fantasy VII Remake version of Tifa that was used in the meta for a little while. On the other hand, we've also had a number of not so good ones. Cecil, Prompto, Hope. Garnet didn't really end up being that much of anything either. So which category is this new version of Tifa falling into? Well, let's dive into her kit today and let's find out. Advent Children Tifa will be joining War of the Visions as a 90 cost ice unit. She will be part of that Fist group that was a top meta contender for a number of months, and she has base 3-2 movement and she wears hats and cloth. Starting off with the TMR, this one is her leather vest. It provides a 2 cast self buff of 40% attack and 40% strike res penetration. Both effects are lasting for 4 turns. I actually do like this TMR quite a bit, even though I do think it's a little bit more niche, maybe for some older strike units that don't have any of this already baked into their kit. Maybe not a TMR that I would, go out of my way and try to pull for, because of all the dispel abilities that are in the game currently, but this of course is coming in on this free unit, so I will definitely add this one to the toolbox. Another bonus is that it does have a 1 agility here on the base stats of the TMR. I think there may be just one other TMR that has that, so that's a pretty unique attribute to it as well. Looking now at Tifa's stats, and when put up against the next generation UR averages, I'm happy to say it's actually a pretty strong overall stat line here, compared even to the latest and greatest 100 cost units. She has a couple of areas that she does really excel in, most notably her dex, crit, and accuracy totals are all actually topping the charts of all of these small handful of next-gen units that have come out so far. The dex total in particular even rivals the missile units that have come out in the past. She's right up there amongst the entire cast of War of the Visions in that category. So she's really not going to have any issues whatsoever when it comes to critting reliably. Her accuracy also is the best that we've ever seen in the game, coming in at 230 innate. This is actually only including one passive. She does have a secondary passive you could also equip, get her up to a 250 total, which is absolutely insane. As for her attack total, also very solid here, coming in at a 713 innate. When it does come to her HP and her agility, she is a tick or two behind the pack, when it comes to these newer units that we've been seeing. But overall very solid, and as a 90 cost unit, I'm very happy with how she's stacking up here to the competition. From a defensive standpoint, 0 defense and 0 spirit, 15 slash and magic resistance, 10 against pierce. She's going to be neutral versus strike, and then just a single weakness here. It is going to be against missile damage at that -10. For her ailment resistances, we have charm, poison, and sleep. Very solid there, I think, especially when you think of the meta, over the last several months. Covers a few things that we had been seeing on quite a few units like poison and sleep. For her mastery ability, she is going to be kind of shortchanged, I think, here. Just a single effect. It is a pretty good one, albeit, but again, just one effect here. It is that 15 unit resistance. And while that is a pretty decent one, it is a stat that is getting deprecated here, very recently in the game, starting with Ashen Mont and also with Tifa herself here, and we'll take a look at that when we get into her abilities. Now, if you do take her up to level 140, she is going to pick up 15 healing power. It actually will be an important facet for her survivability, and then 20 accuracy, which was factored into that total that we just looked at above. In terms of recommended passives for Tifa, I think her tune-up time equivalent, which is the 12% agility and 40 defense pen, it's probably her best one. I think it is the essential one that you'll want to have on at all times. Aside from that, I think, accuracy and crit rate is another one that she has access to, also very solid. But, you could kind of cater it, depending on what you need. If you're not seeing as much evasion, or if you're not using her to that end, she does have some more, attack-based and crit-based ones that you could look at instead. For a counter ability, she has a preemptive attack that has a 30% chance to proc. That's pretty average, in terms of kind of compared to recent units that have come out. And it's basically just an upgraded version of Flurry Counter from Pugilist, but now just getting this enhanced 3 range, which is, decent enough. I don't really think that her other counters are worth using, so I would have this one on at all times. Alright guys, let's take a look at Tifa's skills and abilities here next, and we're going to start it off with her buffs. Her self buff is going to provide her a courage effect, ignoring fatal damage, while also imbuing her attacks with a 15% strike res and peril on hit. So this is going to work similar to the High Dragoon skill Spineworm's Blessing, and because of that it will stack on top of other imperils, like Snow or 2P's Limit Burst, and kind of enhance that level of strike resist down that you're able to achieve. Aside from that, it's a pretty basic overall self buff here, especially when you kind of compare it against some of the more recent ones that we've been seeing, but definitely not the worst one that I've ever seen. Her party buff here, this one's going to provide her a 4-hit, 50% physical barrier, 40% elemental chain resist, 30% strike res penetration, with both of those two effects going to your teammates, and then it will imbue her attacks with a 50% HP damage absorption effect. And this ability here, along with that innate healing power that she was picking up in her mastery, I do think this is sort of key to her survival, in terms of taking some damage and then being able to heal it back, actively there in battle and kind of sustain herself and keep her going. So this buff here, it's quite good. It definitely, I think, sort of makes up for that first one not being quite as good. I really do like that she is able to pass that strike res penetration onto her teammates as well. That's not something that we've ever seen before in the game. So again, similar to the TMR, it's a way that she's able to sort of buff up and help some of the older strike units in the game. Moving down now into the main kit, her low AP finisher skill is a range 2, range height 1. Just a single effect here, and it will remove 20 AP from your target on hit. Now Tifa did come with a unique fist weapon from this event as well, and that does add an additional 5 AP removed anytime that you do crit your opponent on any of her attacks, so she can potentially get 25 here, from this single skill. Her second attack is a multi-select 2 with a range of 4, range height 1, coming in with a large 200% modifier. Prior to the damage, this will crush the unit resistance of your targets by 60% and seal off their reactions completely for 3 turns. Post damage, this one does have a 50% chance to frostbite your targets there as well. Now this is actually our second unit resistance crush in the game, right alongside Ashen Mont, who just came out for us here a couple of weeks ago. So this is definitely very strong. I'd say this is Tifa's signature ability, and definitely will be quite dangerous, in terms of setting up not only her own attacks after that is applied, but also any teammates that she has that really do lean heavily into that unit-based damage. The chance to frostbite here, certainly icing on the cake. You would consider maybe running Tifa maybe at a bit higher faith in order to up the chance for that to kind of land on your opponents. Now her third attack here, also topping out of that range of 4 there on the cross AoE, coming in with a medium 165% modifier. Prior to the damage, she will increase her defense pen by 40, so that's going to allow her to hit 80% defense pen before gearing is accounted for. Now this attack does debuff your enemies as well, with the 50% increased AP cost to their skill. So I think you guys can sort of see a theme developing here with this unit. Tifa's kit is all about AP breaking and sort of hindering your opponent's ability to use additional skills, and she has all these various tools in order to do that. Now her fourth skill here, it's a bit more of a basic one, but we have a cross AoE here topping out at a range of 5. This one coming in with that large 200% mod. Prior to the damage, this one will break physical barriers. Definitely always useful to have a long-range barrier break like this one, especially as an AoE skill. So very good, even though this is a relatively simple one here. Now last up, we have Tifa's Limit Burst. This one's a range of 4 with a range height of 2. It's coming in with that extra large 240% mod. Prior to the damage, this will imperil your target's chain resistance by 50%. So basically it's just allowing your team to increase that chain modifier even faster. Now post damage, it also debuffs your target's crit evasion by 30, and it is a 2-hit chaining attack. Definitely not my favorite Limit Burst that I've ever seen. I think maybe I'd even consider turning this one off in PvP, just because I do think that her other skills maybe are a bit more impactful. I do kind of like it maybe for PvE situations, maybe for kind of PvE bosses and things like that where you are trying to ramp up that chain. I could potentially see some nice uses for it there. So overall, very interesting kit here for Tifa. It's very unique, in terms of the AP deprivation focus. We've never really seen anything quite like this, where almost every one of her skills is kind of dedicated towards that AP breaking function. And because of that, I do think that there is a lot that you could lean into with that strategy and this unit. Now coming in next week's patch, we should be seeing this all-new vision card that will be supporting Tifa's fist group. It's also going to be touching on the Greatsword group as well as Staff A Black Mage. So if you did go for Cloud or play that Greatsword team, this is definitely another very nice card coming in from this collaboration that you may want to consider picking up. The base stats on the card are relatively basic here. The bestowed effects, though, I think are quite nice and help make up for that a bit. Has a very unique 20% strike res penetration bestowed, so obviously that's going to be very nice for Tifa. She doesn't have any, innately other than that buff that she can apply, so that's going to be able to increase her potency there in battle. As for the party effects, we have a very rare one here with the 42% luck to the party. It's also coming in with that 12% agility and 20% magic resistance. So not quite the agility of the Halloween Lucio card, but it is relatively close. I think for most units, it may cost you 1 to 2 agility. I don't think that's really going to be game breaking at the end of the day. The holo effect here, it does apply to Guild War, and that is going to be that 15 accuracy. So that's actually a very nice benefit to using this card as well. So definitely a lot of nice facets to this card. The unique bestowed effects, what we looked at, the rare luck party stat in this Job VC era. We've only ever seen one other card which has luck on it, and is that Halloween Lucio card. So I do think this is a great one to pick up for all the jobs that can use it. If you are interested in a strike team with Tifa, and you did miss out last year maybe on that Full Metal Alchemist agility card, I would say 100%, pick up this one. The effects I think will be very, very nice with 2P if you were around for that Nier Automata event. And speaking of 2P, I do think that this lends itself perfectly with her more evasive play style, and maybe opens up some additional doors for her to be played, outside of the Earth element for that evasion play. And I do think that's a play that you could potentially go with Tifa as well. Unfortunately, though, she doesn't really have any support within her kit or passives to really make it exceptional, but her next generation stats alone, along with that 42% luck, it will get her maybe into that semi-evasion zone, and that's actually something we'll look at here in a few minutes in the mock build. Now, if you are a newer player coming into this collaboration and you did grab Cloud this week, along with his Vision card, this is another one here that could really help you flesh out that team and kind of give you that combination of unit resistance and agility between these two cards. So if you're all about him and trying to min-max him, you want to grab this one here as well. Now, taking a closer look at Tifa's job group, which is that Fist class. For veterans of the game, I think this is the one that, the majority of us are most familiar with here, kind of in the last year or so as we've gotten into this job-related play, as this is really the team that sort of kicked that off, just after the 3rd anniversary. The group itself is now up to 13 total cards. We have all of the main party effects covered. We have our unit resist, agility, and area resistance, even multiple cards for some of those. Although I will say, if you did miss out on that Full Metal Alchemist collaboration last year, you are missing out on, perhaps 2 of the best cards for this group currently. Now, unit-wise, I would say the Fist team is really still centered around Alaya the Alabaster. She is still one of the most powerful characters, within this team. Her damage and utility, still very nice. It's more so her survivability in today's game that really is, subpar. She's really just a glass cannon at this point. 2P, also a very strong unit within this group, as mentioned. Now, eventually, most of us will be getting our hands on a new tank for this group with Veritas of the Earth. And perhaps at that time, within a couple of months, we might see a bit of resurgence in pure strike teams. We'll have to sort of wait and see what happens there. Overall, though, there are some nice pieces in this group. Like I said, it is one that was formerly, top of the meta, not that long ago. It just at this point has sort of fallen down the rung just a little bit. Alright guys, on to a couple of mock builds that I put together. This first one is maybe more of a theorycraft type build. This one's going to be an ice water AP removal team. And the general idea here would be to sort of punch out Sephiroth's AP before he's able to actually use that devastating cursed limit burst. And I would say the same idea and tactic could be used against Ashen Mont as well. So in terms of the build, we would have Summer Glassy up front using the Veritas of the Wind TMR to lead off the fight. That's going to kill off the opponent's ability to use that AP restore. Then we would have Ashen Lynx using the Roy Mustang TMR as well as the Monocle Raid item. And that's going to allow her to steal up to 30 AP per crit. So between that and Tifa's own AP steal as well as that AP consumption increase debuff that she can apply, theoretically we'd just totally be shutting down the opponent before they could really rip off any of those powerful skills. Now the card support here, it's not the greatest, but we do have a couple of Dark Esper cards that we can pull in here, and those are pretty decent. Overall, I think this is workable. I do also think that Tifa's 60% unit resist crush does have nice synergy with Shadow Links here. I think it's going to help out her damage quite a bit, as she does have a pretty nice select 2 attack that she can leverage. So that's the general idea for this build. I'm going to try this one out once I do get Tifa online. If you don't have Shadow Links though, and you were interested in sort of trying to play around with something like this, another idea might be to use Celebratory Jaden in that spot. He does have the Grimoire Keeper sub-job and can use that attritional protection skill for 20 AP down on hit, which is, can be pretty powerful sometimes. Eventually, another very nice option will be the Veritas of the Water, once we do have the amount of medals to get her weapon as well. And that is actually giving her 15 AP down on hit. And then she does have some skills which do give her AP down as well. So I think that could be another nice combination we could look forward to in the future. All right, guys, so here is the second build. And again, this is going to be a little bit more of a niche idea, but I think that's kind of where this character lives, at least for right now. I don't think that she's a meta or carry unit on her own, but maybe some of these more interesting ideas or could work in the right situation or right setting. So this team here is going to be a mono fist team kind of built around that evasion play. Now 2P, she should end up being very evasive in this build with the double luck cards. The other 2 units, they're going to end up being more in that semi-evasion area, where units, they will have to actually gear to be able to hit them, but not overly so. They're not going to need to go crazy. Usually sort of the key bonus of semi-evasion teams is that you sort of could completely take the tank out of the game, because they're very inaccurate, maybe only able to hit you with a 100% hit skill, maybe just on a single target, and that sort of helps eliminate some of that chip damage for these teams. Now there is going to be a lot of offensive potency here, a lot of potential on that side of it, so I think if you actually are able to get off a couple of key misses in the fight, this team could, I could see it actually doing pretty well out there. The units are generally bulky enough, that they are able to take, 1 to 2 hits before they would die. So, along with the evasiveness, that could be, a benefit to their survivability. Now here in this one, we are going to be building around that Tifa vision card, of course, with the 42% luck and the agility. And then we're going to be comboing that with the old Secrets of the Heart, Katone card there. So between those two, you can see there in the stats that Tifa is going to be in that semi-evasion range of 287%. Keep in mind, no reincarnations here, so she could potentially even get a little bit higher. So again, it's not incredibly dodgy, but it's actually not too shabby. So I think this could be a pretty fun build, especially maybe in arena or free match, maybe if you're able to find some more inaccurate teams. And like I said, the offense is going to be very potent here. Just like I was saying about Lynx, that unit resist crush that Tifa brings to the fight, it's going to be very powerful when paired with Elia's Stag's impact ability. Now, as always, if you are interested in taking a closer look at these builds, I will go ahead and put a link to them in the description below. So what is my verdict today on Tifa? Well, this unit from top to bottom is all about the AP deprivation, where nearly all of the attacks in her main kit are centered around that, to a degree that we've never seen on a unit in the past. And she's doing it through several different avenues, increasing your AP consumption, her frostbite effect, and then straight up flat AP removal as well. So all of those things I think make her a very interesting and unique unit. In terms of utility, Tifa is bringing a select 2 60% unit resist crush, the second of its kind after Ashenmon came into the game. And with her overall increase in unit resistance on many of the units out there, this ability I think is going to be a very nice enabler for setting up your team's damage. On the survivability front, Tifa's bringing that 50% 4-hit physical barrier and that 50% HP damage absorb, which we've seen June put in huge work in recently, and that's going to actually help sustain her pretty well over the course of the fight. So those things combined with her solid HP pool, I do actually think it makes her a pretty competitive physical bruiser. Now perhaps one of the best attributes for Tifa is going to be her incredible innate accuracy. As I was saying earlier, it's the best that we've ever seen in the game to date. And I do think that that's going to give Tifa a nice niche here as we move forward, as she's going to be a unit that you're able to rely on for those evade matchups. Now on the more negative side for Tifa, she is completely lacking when it comes to any sort of area resistance or wide guard effect. That's going to make her very susceptible to any kind of area of effect attacks, particularly if they are magic based and bypass that physical barrier that she has. Now, Tifa is also going to be coming in with some very old and dated sub-jobs in Lancer and Pugilist, which unfortunately really don't offer her any compelling passives or really any great abilities that she can leverage in battle. And although Tifa does have some very nice bruising tools like Courage and her Barrier, those are both very dated and old tech, which, many units in the game at this point are able to dispel or eliminate. And unfortunately, Tifa doesn't really have any way to protect those statuses and seal off her opponent's ability to do so. So I do think that is a consideration from a team building perspective. You will want to surround her with units who are able to do that and can sort of enable her on the battlefield. At the end of the day, Tifa is a next generation unit and is better than the vast majority of units that have been released over the last 4 years. I just really don't view her as a true hyper carry, on the same level as some of the units that we have been seeing come out recently. But that said, I do think that in the right team and in the right setting, I do believe that she can be a very strong unit. And her niche of AP removal and her exceptional accuracy should continue to provide her a place in the game, as we move forward. So I definitely recommend everyone out there slow build this unit and sort of get her online over time. So there it is, guys. Those are my thoughts today on Advent Children Tifa. So like I was saying there, again, I don't envision this unit really having the same sort of immediate or large impact as maybe some of the other better free units that we had seen in the past, like an Edward Elric or a Tidus or any of those. But, I do think that she is a worthy unit, and, I do like the unique attributes that she is bringing to the table. How has this collab been treating you guys so far? As for me, unfortunately, I did have to pity Cloud. That makes the third full pity unit for me in a row, so morale at this point is just at an all-time low. Let me know how you guys fared in the comments below. Hopefully you guys are doing better than I did. While you're down there, if you did enjoy the video today, hit that like button for me. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. And that is really all that I have to say for today. So as always, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.